everyone, welcome back again. So this is Himanshu Bharadwaj. I'm a Monstack developer in the Youth Project DYP. Today I'm going to guide you how to create a COVID-19 app using React.js. So this is basically the second part of this video. If you haven't watched the first part yet, you can click on the I button, and for the rest, let's start now. If you have watched the first part, then you would have noticed some changes in this web application. Those changes are just because of the CSS. So to know the changes that what I have done, let's jump onto VS Code. So what changes I have made? Inside the app.js, I removed the result component and I went to the form.jsx and import result component here and put the result component under the submit form. And I wrapped both the submit form and result component inside a div having id equals to container, and then made some changes in form.css and bottom.css. That's all the changes what I have made in this web application. So what we need from this web application is that whenever users enter a country name and then click on search button, then the total cases and total deaths of that country due to COVID should appear here inside the result container. That's what we want from this COVID-19 app. So what is the plan? So basically the plan is that whenever a user enters a country's name in search bar, then that name of the country should be set in the state variable whose name will also be country. And when the user will click on the search button, then instead of just fetching the API directly, what we need to do is that we need to concat the state variable whose name is country with this API, and then we need to fetch that API and store its result in the result component. You will ask me, where is the API? Here is the API. This is the API and this is the query, and here you have to put your query in the name of a country. For example, if you want to get the COVID details of India, then you should write here India, and you will get the COVID details of India. If you want to get the COVID details of China, then you have to remove India from here and then you have to write China here, and now you got the result or the COVID details of China here. So we need to use this API to fetch the COVID details of a country and then store the results in the result component. So let's go to VS Code and fetch this API. As I already mentioned in the plan that whenever a user whenever user enters a country's name, then we need to set the state. For that we will go to the inside the constructor and we will declare the state here. Inside the state we will declare another variable there whose name will be country. The initial value will be a empty string. Now we're gonna declare another variable naming result whose initial value will be an empty array. As I already mentioned in the plan that whenever user enters a country name in the search bar, then it should be set in the state inside the country named variable. So for that we need to make some changes inside the search bar component. Here, declare name is equals to country, declare value is equals to this.state.country, declare placeholder is equals to enter country's name. Now, whenever user enters the country name in the search bar, we need to set the state accordingly. For that, we gonna use onChange here. So onChange will be equals to here this dot handle change, and we gonna define handle change above. So this dot handle change. Now I'm gonna define handle change above render. Write e dot prevent default. Now we're gonna set the state that will be e dot target dot name colon e dot target dot value. So e.target.name, e.target.value. So basically, always keep in mind that whenever you want the search bar, whenever you want any component or any HTML component to change the value of some state, then you should name that component or name that HTML component equals to the state variable whom you want to change or whom you want to set in the future. For example, what this means, e.target.name. So whenever we make changes inside this search bar, it's basically the target. So what its name? Its name is country. So where is the country in the state? So it is the country. Now e.target.value. Whenever the user enters when a user enters some value, then that value will be set inside this variable that will be country inside the state. So whenever you are making changes in the search bar, that changes will gonna store or set in this state variable whose name is country. So this is the whole meaning of this handle change method. Now what we want is that whenever a user click on the search button, then we're gonna call a function, and inside that function we're gonna fetch the API. So I have written here on click is equal to this dot fetch API. Now I'm gonna define the fetch API here above. So here I'm gonna define fetch API. Write e.prevent default. Now I already told you that whenever we click the button, what the first thing what we need to do? The first thing what we need to do is that we need to concat this country variable that is stored in the state with this API. For that, what we're gonna do here? Let's jump onto VS Code. Define const country equals to this dot state dot country. Now create a variable that will be URL that will be equals to the URL of the API. This is basically the URL of the API. Now what I have told you in the plan that we need to concat the country entered by the user with this API. So now here we're gonna concat it country. Now what we have to do that we need to fetch this URL, or we need to fetch this API and then store it result. Then we need to store it result inside the result component. So what we need to do here is that we need to fetch this API first. Write fetch URL dot then response arrow operator return response.json dot then data arrow operator this dot set state result colon data dot catch error arrow operator console.log error. So now you can see that we have fetched the URL, and when we get we get data in the response, then what we have done here is that we have set we have set this data inside that result variable. Inside this result variable, we have set this data inside the result variable that is stored in the state. So now what we're gonna do? We're gonna create a variable here that is const result JSX. Const result JSX equals this dot state dot result dot map, and then item arrow operator. Now we're gonna remove this result component from here, and we're gonna write this result component inside this. Now what we have to do is that we need to create something that will be total cases equals to item dot cases. Now that's equals to item dot deaths. Now you will ask me that why I'm using this dot cases and dot deaths here. Let's go to this API. I will tell you why I'm using that. Heroku. Now you can see that we are getting in response whenever I give some country and hit enter, then you will get the response of the COVID details of that country. So this is basically a JSON data. This is basically an object and a JSON data. So what we are getting here if we need to get the cases, then it's in this form. This is the basically the key for getting the value of the cases. So if you want death, we will use deaths. And if you want recovered, then we will use this recovered for that. If you want active cases, then you will use active for that. So what I have done here is that you will whenever we fetch the API, we will get this whole data. We will get this whole data in this form. And what I have done here is that I have converted it into an array. This object I have wrapped it with an array, and then I mapped it with the map function. And then what I have done here is that I have created a variable that is total cases that is equals to what this dot state dot result dot map item. That's mean instead of writing this dot state dot result dot cases, I can write item dot cases here, and with that, so we can also do the same. So before saving this, what we need to do before here is that we need to include this result.jsx here. Otherwise, this will show an error. Now save it. And then I'm gonna go to result.jsx JSX. And inside result.jsx, you can see that we have used props as the parameters. And now what we're gonna do here, that remove this random value from here, just put some JSX. So what we need to do here is that this, props dot total. This is now props dot deaths. Now just save it, jump onto your browser. This is your web application. Now search India, click on the search button. Oh, and now you got the result. Let's search for China. Let's search for Pakistan. Thank you for watching this video. If you really enjoyed this, you can like, share and subscribe. And if you want to join our community and want to be a OneStack developer, then you can just click in the link that is given in the description box. Thank you for watching us.